don't you join in a little like they do, you know? Oh, bang the drum slowly and play the five below.
Okay, now we are.
The dead march as they carry me along.
Live.
This is great. Sweeny, just wanted to let you know, I don't know if you knew, but Bang the Drum Slowly, myself and Thurman and a few other guys were in Bang the Drum Slowly.
You were? No
Yeah,
kidding.
we were in there. I caught a ball in right field, and people went crazy when I caught a ball in right field.
Now, was that film specifically for the movie, or did they just use real game footage?
Oh, no, 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 no. It was the game footage was basically for the baseball part of the movie.
Film specifically for.
It was really, yes, correct.
Okay, yeah.
We're in there. I think we're playing the Orioles, I believe. And I was in right field. Thurman was actually catching. And there was a fly ball in the right center. And Mercer, I went over across from Mercer and caught the ball, and they had me. So it was really great. I mean, that song was beautiful.
Did you get to meet Robert De Niro?
Absolutely. It was wonderful. It was unbelievable. Hey, Sweety, it was so nice that, gosh, it must have been 45 years ago. And I remember when De Niro was there and the other actor, the big pitcher, I forgot the guy's name, but they used our clubhouse. Pete Sheehy got all the equipment for him, and they were out on the field, and they're actually playing a baseball game.
You know, I got to go back and watch that again, because I think the only time I ever saw it, it was probably about, geez, it was at least 30 years ago. So It was before I'd ever really been to Yankee Stadium or, obviously doing what I do now. So I would love to go back and see if I recognize any of the things or anything. I mean, obviously I was never in that version of the stadium. You were before renovation. But the other one that I'd like to go back, and I lost my train of thought. There's something else that I would really like to go back and see. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. I was watching on a plane flight probably a year or two ago. I saw Serpico for the first time.
Really?
Al Pacino movie, right?
Yeah.
And there's a great scene in there where he walks up the hill in the Bronx to meet a bunch of the other cops.
Yeah.
Underneath this big tree in the park, and you can see the stadium in the background.
Really?
It opens up. I'm trying to think now. I think it was because it opened up in center field. You could see into the outfield and towards home plate. I think is what it was. But it's a beautiful shot in that movie that you can see the old stadium. But I mean, you were in the old one, the original one, before it got renovated. It must have been quite a sight.
Sweeny, I mean, it was incredible. Hey, I was a kid. I was 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And a Georgia boy get drafted #1 by the Yankees, come up there, sign my contract, and then all of a sudden I'm at Yankee Stadium, the real Yankee Stadium. It's not, it's not the renovated, it's not the new stadium, it's the old Yankee Stadium where they had the listing, and the Pope was there. Mm-hmm. Everybody, the New York Giants, Y.A. Tittle was there. I mean, everybody was there. And, you walk on that field, and that was a very sacred field. And you look at that, and the first time I was taking batting practice, I was taking BP with some of the guys, 17 years old. And I'm just thinking, this is really Yankee Stadium. This is a 17-year-old kid got to hit in behind Mickey Mantle, got to hit behind Pepitone and all those guys, and I mean, it was just, I mean, hey, I lived a world. I mean, I lived a fantasy. I mean, it was unbelievable.
there were, I don't know what it was like back then. What year was it you were drafted? 67?
67. Yes.
Nowadays everybody knows you have a really good idea that you're getting taken at the top of the draft.
Yeah.
Did you know back then, was there word trickling down that you would be the first overall pick, or did you think you would be?
See, I knew I was going to be the #1 pick because they contacted me probably a couple of months before. They said, if you don't get injured, you're going to be #1. And at that time, I signed a football scholarship to go to Alabama. And then I signed a basketball scholarship to go to UCLA.
Wow.
So I had one of the other choices I could go. And they said, if we draft you #1, and our team is so bad back then, and CBS owned the team, will you sign or are you going to go with another team and we're going to lose the #1 draft pick? I told them, hey, being Jewish, living down south, getting play with the Yankees, putting the pinstripes on. And I told them yes. And I got drafted #1 and got to be able to see all that stuff. See, back when we played, our high school down south, it wasn't really big baseball. Baseball was not really big. Baseball got big when the Milwaukee Braves came to Atlanta, when the Braves became the Atlanta Braves. We had the minor league team called the Atlanta Crackers. And back then it was a AA team. That's all we had. My high school, we actually played 10 games. That's all the games we had, 10 games. The majority, and here's another thing people don't realize, a majority of my guys on my team signed basketball or football scholarships.
Wait a second, can I go back? You mean you got drafted #1 overall off of 10 games?
No, because we had American Legion Ball.
Oh, okay.
American Legion Ball in the summertime was so big.
That was bigger, yeah.
Oh yeah, no. High school baseball, it was nothing. High school football and then basketball and then baseball. High school football down south. It is what it is.
Had you told before being drafted by the Yankees, had you told either John Wooden or Bear Bryant that you would accept an offer?
I did not.
Okay.
No, I did not.
Did you ever meet them? Did you talk to them personally or just their recruiters or their assistants?
Oh, no. I talked to them personally.
Did you?
Yeah, I went to Bear Bryant.
Wow.
And, back then, when I was, I stayed there for a couple of days and, back then, there's some little bit slidey deals and stuff like that, and you could do a lot of things. And then when I went out to UCLA out in Westwood, but John Wooten came to see me actually in the 11th grade. But back then in the 11th grade, he really couldn't talk to me. Okay. And during my basketball season, I signed a letter of intent. Back then, once you sign a scholarship, a letter of intent, that means that it's not like nowadays. These recruits, they tell each and every college, I want to go there. Now if you sign a letter of intent, you actually have to play there.
So you signed to go?
I signed, yes.
To go to UCLA?
Correct, for basketball.
Right.
If I would have played football, I would have to played at Alabama.
But once you get drafted, at that point, you're a professional and you kind of forfeited that. Is that how that went?
Correct. Once I got, get drafted, but I had to sign the contract. I had to sign the contract. But nowadays, if you play baseball in college, you could play basketball in college, just like Dave Winfield did. Mm-hmm. Just like, we could not do that. We could not do that.
What was your best sport?
You know what? People always ask me that. Basketball, I'm looking at myself. I played in basketball because I had a 44-inch vertical, okay? And I dunked like 60% of my shots. And when I started playing in the Dapper Dan, remember the Dapper Dan?
Oh, sure, in Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. Spencer Hayward and myself, everywhere I went, Spencer was going. Really? It was just like we became really good friends because wherever I went, he was recruited. And, and at that time, he came from Pershing High School in Detroit. Okay. And people didn't realize his high school coach was Dick Vitale.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know that.
No, you knew that.
Wow, no, I did not.
Yeah. And then Spencer went to the University of Detroit, where Dick Vitale became
He
the
went to
head
be coach
coach
later. Yeah.
at the University of Detroit.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So, his best sport, of course, was basketball. I think if I had to say football, I was a pretty good wide receiver, good hands, jumped real well, ran real well. But I think baseball all around, where ability wise, because I can do everything. When they draft you number one, I mean, you have to be basically a 5-tool guy. Okay. I could run, I could hit, I could throw, like that. But as soon as I started going up through the minor league system, that's the time I started getting injured. And, back then, we're talking about before we went on, you wanted to gain weight, muscular, but, I think, I would love to have your type of body, because I tell Gene Michaels, I said, you had the greatest body to play baseball. You're tall and thin. You're tall. And just like if you look at Derek Jeter, it's the same way. He was long and rangy. Guys like myself, or not like, Aaron Judge and Stanton, those guys were beasts. Those guys are beasts. So basically, they just don't have, the muscle capacity not to pull muscles. And what I did was, unfortunately, back when we played, we did not actually have exercises where we lifted weights. How we got ourselves into shape, we basically did construction. And when we started working construction, that's how we got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And unfortunately, my body was I was so big and strong. And, and even when I was in high school, Sweeny, I was like 6 feet, about 200, but I was a big 200 pounds. I was a thick 200 pounds. And that's really not good. When you played in the minor leagues and you play 100 games in the minor leagues, it's good for high school.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It wears.
It's funny. Like, I think that's one of the most overlooked things about trying to project kids coming, whether it's from high school or college, into professionals. I think we forget that it's kind of like this little weeding out factor, right? Because you've gone from, if you're a high school kid, you've gone from playing baseball a few days a week after school or in the summer. It's not your job.
Yeah.
You wake up every day going to play baseball and thinking about how to get better. And you're with so many great players, and being good at it is hard. I think that's one of the things that's something, and you could probably tell me, because you probably went through it with a lot of guys and saw a lot of guys, kind of fade out. You go from being really good at wherever you grew up to now having to succeed every day and doing it every day. And it wears on a lot. You can see a lot of guys who you think are good prospects, they end up falling out, not because they don't have talent, but they don't have the ability to overcome that first struggle.
Sweeny, I think the toughest thing in the world, when I was in the minor leagues, I'm 17 years old, and I see guys that are actually been playing maybe a couple of years before me. I said, God, these guys are great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're throwing, whatever, because we didn't have a jug gun. And, they threw hard, and they're great athletes. And, they could run, majority of them. They're big and strong. They could hit the ball a long ways. But the majority of the guys, even in the minor leagues, okay, the toughest thing in the world, and you cannot give, you got to be born with this. You got to have the heart.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have this, if you don't have the heart, Sweeny, there's no way in the world you're going to make it. And, there's so many guys that, you probably grew up with, and this guy's going to make it. He's going to make it. He's going to make it. Nowadays, even when I played, there's so many great athletes.
Yeah.
And when I played sports, I played with a small amount of great athletes. But when you open it up, playing against guys from Miami, California, Arizona, where there's great baseball. Nowadays, everything is in Dominican, Mexico, Japan, everywhere.
Can I go back for a minute? You're 6 foot. So but you said you could leap and dunk. So are you being recruited as a point guard on that?
No, I was in high school. I was a 5. I was a center in high school.
In height, but you're 6 foot. You're not going to be a 5 in
3.
college
I was going to
basketball.
play. They're going to have me a 2.
They had a guy named Alcindor playing center. At
Oh yeah,
UCLA.
no. You know who I used to play with all the time? And used to have jumping with was David Thompson.
No kid. Well, how much taller?
in North Carolina State.
But he was huge. I mean, he was compared.
He
to
was about 6'5".
Yeah.
He was lanky, but I mean he could jump out of. Yeah.
But where? So what were you? Were you going to be a guard?
No, I was going to probably play a 3.
Ooh.
A jump in 3. Back then, okay, listen to me now.
But it's 6 foot still.
Yeah, but back then it's a lot different what it is now. These guys playing playing a 1, they're 6'6".
But I know Clyde Frazier used to play for the Knicks, right?
Okay, we went to school. You know, Clyde and his brother.
Is he from Atlanta?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he went to Southwest High School.
So I've stood next to Clyde.
Oh, he's 6'5".
Yeah, and he was a point guard.
Yeah,
he was a guard. So that's why
Correct.
I mean, no disrespect to your ability, but I think when you're 6 foot, a little over 6 foot, I find it hard to believe you're playing anything but guard.
That I know it, but if I would have gone to UCLA, I would like a tweener. Just like in football.
Sure.
It was like a tweener. I could jump, okay. I could shoot. I could handle the ball, but I'm playing against guys 6'3", 6'4".
Nowadays, you'd have to have an outside shot. How was your
absolutely.
outside shot?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I wasn't always inside.
Yeah.
I could shoot. I could play, but I looked at all that stuff. I looked at that, and I looked at it was like Henry Bibby was there. Henry was there.
Yeah.
And John Vallely was there. Of course, Alcindor was there. I played against him a little bit when he went to Powers High School in New York City. Okay. And, when you look at these guys, I mean, and you look at me, it's between Bugsy Bowles and you got Monique Bow. He's like 7'6", and Bugsy was like.
Now, did you ever, once you made it to the major leagues and you're traveling around to these cities, did you ever run into any of these guys? Like, did you go to basketball games on off days, things like that?
During the off season, and this was against my contract, but I'm telling you, I played in the Rucker League.
Did you really?
I played in the Rucker League. Yes.
Holy cow, that's legendary.
But I wasn't supposed to do that. I did. And I played on the team with Fly Williams. Remember Fly Williams?
Yeah.
You remember those names? Jim Bad News Barnes?
Yeah. Well, I read about 2 years ago, I read Dr. J's book, Dr. J's autobiography. I mean, he talks a lot about the guys from that era, and he played, Rucker Park and all that stuff too.
See, I got drafted by the Kentucky Colonels.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
I got drafted. Yeah, that was the time when Dr. J was in Virginia Beach.
Right.
He's with the Virginia Squires.
Yes.
He was with the Virginia Squires. And the Kentucky team was Pat Riley.
Right?
Yeah.
I wonder, he's a year younger than you, but the guy that went to my high school ended up playing in the ABA and NBA named Dave Twardzik. He was a guard.
I remember him.
Dave played with the Virginia Squires.
I remember him. Yeah.
And then he went on to play with the Portland Trailblazers. He played with Bill Walton on the 77 Portland Trailblazers team. He graduated from my high school, Middletown, Pennsylvania, 20 years before me, 1968. And our school won a state championship with him leading the way. He is far and away he's like, if you made like the Mount Rushmore of my high school, like one face on it's him. It's Dave Twardzik. He is a legend in that town. That's and he's right. I mean, he's only a year younger than you. So if you had gone that route, you probably would have played against him quite a bit.
I probably played in the Dapper Dan.
I may be, yes.
Yeah, because being from Pennsylvania, he played in the Dapper Dan.
Yeah.
Back then, I mean, it was really, sports has totally changed. I mean, it's done a 360. And you look at baseball now. These guys and people say, wow, you got drafted #1 in the country. It's how much money did you get? I tell people, I got $105,000. Back then, that was a heck of a lot of money.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, my parents didn't see that for their whole life. Okay.
Right.
And then nowadays, if you get drafted #1, I mean, you're talking about $5 to $7 million contract.
Yep.
And I mean, it's incredible what baseball has changed so much. And you look at baseball now, and living down south, baseball is real big. High school baseball is extremely big down here. Okay, you got so many tournaments, Sweeny. You got so many tournaments, and these parents, you wouldn't believe these parents how much they spend for lessons. I mean, I know you have people up where you are, they spend X amount of dollars. Down south, you're talking about everything's a specialty now.
Because it's
if you play baseball, that's what it is. If you play baseball, you don't play football or basketball. But when we played, if it's basketball season, we'll play basketball. Football season, we'll play football. Baseball, we'll play baseball.
Well, and that's part of the reason I think a lot of people talk about the way the body breaks down certain times. It's because you're able to give different muscle groups rest by the different sports you play. I mean, you even said yourself, playing baseball, full time is what started to get the injuries to hit you, because you were playing at such a high level all the time without the breaks in between. Yeah. And when you're playing at that young an age, it's hard. I understand the desire because you want to be good for your age group, but I just always looked at it as, I mean, listen, you had special talent, right? How old were you when you first figured out that you were really good at sports? Because the way I look at it, I see parents try to bring that out at certain ages. And I always think to myself, listen, special is going to show. If you're special, it's going to show.
Yeah. The parents live through the kids. And, a lot of kids, even if you're good athletes, you get so sick and tired of it because you're under pressure and pressure and pressure. You got these camps that you go to.
So go back. So were you 10? Were you 12? Were you 14?
I'd say I was 11 years old.
11. That's when you figured out
let me tell you what
better
happened.
than everybody else in the neighborhood.
Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was at the Jewish Community Center in Atlanta. And my parents were not sportsmen. They didn't play sports. I was playing what they call tetherball. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, sure. I know it is. Yeah.
We were playing tetherball. Okay. And, and also we're playing volleyball. We're in the gym. Okay. And, I don't know who I was playing with. I was just jumping. I was just jumping. Everything just came easy to me. I was just jumping and, and it was easy for me. Okay. So my coach, who was probably our babysitter, told me, can I touch the rim like that? You're jumping real high. Can you touch the net? That was easy. Okay. Can you touch the rim? And he said, start at half court and I want you to run and touch the rim. So I started half court. I jumped I probably had about a 3-inch vertical because I couldn't jump straight up. I jumped vertical. Okay. So I didn't touch it. I said, what I can do is I could just jump up and I probably could touch it. So I took one step and jumped. And it was just like, I touched it. And I'm 11, 12 years old. He said, okay, can you touch it with both hands? I did it. Okay. Now, here's a baseball, not a baseball, but we played, it was some, not a softball maybe. He said, what I want you to do, I want you to jump up and see if you could put it through the rim.
Sure.
Like that. Okay. Like that. I was 11, 12 years old. I did it. And that's the time that my name started getting out, because I started playing baseball then, Little League, and I started playing football and basketball. Okay, did you know, is that when you start playing at 12 years old, are you
hitting, throwing, running
No,
better than
no,
everybody
no, no,
else?
no, because I wasn't playing baseball much.
Okay, see that.
I was playing Little League. I was playing
Okay.
Little League.
Sure.
But now I started, for some reason, I started blossoming, and I started getting confidence because I never done it before. I mean,
Yeah.
I saw people playing sports, and my mom and dad. I mean, my father wasn't an athlete. My mother wasn't an athlete. And being Jewish, I mean, Jews, they became a doctor or a lawyer, or they worked for parents, and they didn't want to get dirty, and they get dirty. No, you're too dirty, like that. But that wasn't me. But Sweetie, that wasn't me. I wanted to get dirty. I wanted to play.
All right, I want to switch because you said it. I hear so many stories from people who grew up in New York about what Sandy Koufax meant to them. You're from the South and you're Jewish. What did Sandy Koufax mean to you?
Oh, he meant a lot to me because, I mean, he was like a role model to us. Whenever there's a baseball game on TV, and when the Dodgers played, or when the in New York, or Brooklyn, or when he was in California, I mean, he was the Hank Greenberg and Sandy Koufax.
Did you and your family understand, or I'm sure you understood, but how big was the significance that he did not pitch on Yom Kippur in the World Series?
I didn't understand it then because I was so young.
Okay.
I was so young, really, to be honest with you. And when I really met Sandy, it was at Old Timers Day when I met Sandy. And we sat down, and everybody told me that he really didn't talk much. I don't know if you met him before.
I have not.
You have not? Okay. He's more of a introverted type of guy, very quiet, laid back, but very, who he's like? He's like Joe DiMaggio a little bit. Okay. He has that that thing when he walks in, I mean, he looks perfect.
Yeah.
And, and that was the type of guy he was, I mean, and I sat down, I spoke to him, and I said, and he knew who I was, okay, because I was with the Yankees Old Timers Day. And I said, Sandy, I'm going to bring this up to you. When I was a young kid, you were my hero, and I used to watch you pitch in Atlanta, and you had all the Jews to come out, and they always talked about, I'm going to go watch Sandy Koufax. I'm going to watch Sandy Koufax. And that was a big deal then. That was a big deal. So I went to see him, and it was so I never thought about it really anymore till I became in high school. And I started getting good and good and good. And Sandy was good. Sandy was really good. He was throwing heat and had a great curveball, 12-6. And you're watching him on TV. And I mean, he was having those great years. And he was a role model. And anybody that played baseball, I say the Jews, okay? Anybody that was role models, he was a role model for us, okay? Now, down south where I was, hey, I mean, it's a lot different than being from the South and up north. I became a role model to the Jews when I played for the Yankees. Okay. Now, because I did not play on Rosh Hashanah, I did not play in Yom Kippur. I went to a lot of tons of synagogues and bar mitzvahs and weddings, and I, did every candle in the whole world for all these Jews. I was related to every Jew. And I lived in Riverdale, and Riverdale was like 98% Jews.
Okay.
Riverdale, New York it's about 20 minutes away from the stadium.
Yeah.
And that's where that was where it was. And I lived there. And the people used to come by my apartment having yarmulkes on. And, and Boomer. And the guy that got my nickname was Scooter, was Rizzuto, because I hit a long home run off of Nolan. And from that on in, he started calling me Boomer. Really? And then people started calling me that. And then when I saw David Wells, I said, David, I just want to let you know, I'm the original. You're the secondary one. Like that. And he smiled, he laughed. He said, you take whatever you want to take.
Yeah. So when you guys get together at fantasy camp, who claims Boomer? Do both of you turn around when somebody else, hey, Boomer?
Well, I do a little bit, but what really happened, most of the guys in fantasy camps are younger now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when Wells was down there, it was we talked a lot about how you got named to be Boomer and whatever. But David is a wonderful guy and everything like that. Let me ask you a question now.
Go ahead.
Okay. What I
I've
really
been asking you all these questions.
Yeah, this is okay. I'm watching the Yankees, and I'm a sitter watching. I'm Cashman now. What kind of moves am I going to make with the Yankees to be good? And I'm looking at two folds. I'm looking at I got contracts that I can't get out of, and I owe so much money, and we have this virus where we lost a lot of money. We're not going to sign a lot of guys, but we need to have a good team. Okay, we need to do something. So I'm started thinking, what do I do? And every time I go back to things, contracts are really a major play. And to me, it is for this. And I'm looking at Ellsbury. What they did with Ellsbury had to pay his contract for 4 or 5 years, and they paid him like $60-70 million for not having an at bat. Okay, now Stanton, he had a great year. He's big, strong. If he stays healthy, I think he could put up some nice numbers and stuff. But the major thing is, can he stay healthy? Where can he play and stay healthy? Is he going to run to second base and pull a hammy? Or you look at Aaron, who are they going to give him the big dollars going on 30 years old? And, I'm looking at this, and DJ, who to me is one of the best hitters in baseball for the last X amount of years. And to me, he's a type of guy like a Rod Carew. He hits it all over the place. I mean, really wonderful hitter, a pure hitter. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when we played, we're not going to sign for a lot of money. And, when we got a raise, we got $500.
Right.
That's what they gave to us. So I'm looking at this. I said, but they talk about millions. They talk about millions. What do you think? Okay. And I know, you try to talk to Cash and the guys and whatever. In your opinion, what do you want to happen, and what do you think's going to happen?
Well, DJ LeMahieu is a guy that I can't figure out a way the Yankees are better without him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he has to be there. I mean, you watched what kind of hitter he is, and he fits in so well. He's a tremendous player. And I remember thinking, going back just 2 years ago, people were talking about, I loved when people, Nolan Arenado's name comes up in different trade discussions with, as you're hearing rumors and stuff, and people say, be careful, he might not be the same hitter outside of Colorado. Heard the exact same thing about DJ LeMahieu 2 years ago, and now he's the best hitter the Yankees have, right? You couldn't imagine him playing anywhere else. I think what the Yankees are up against right now, you're right. This is kind of unique because of all the lost revenue. And unfortunately, nobody knows the exact numbers. I mean, it's not public knowledge, and you kind of ask around, and, the team kind of tells you how much that they're losing, and the Players Association doesn't believe that's a real figure. Oh. It's always been kind of a battle there. So everyone still believes there's a lot of money being made and a lot of money to be handed out. So you're in a discussion right now. If I'm DJ LeMahieu, remember 2 years ago, he was looking for a contract that was his first big free agent contract. He was looking for a 4-year deal. He couldn't get one. So he settled 2 years, $24 million is what the Yankees gave him, and he took it. Now, 2 years later, he comes out as a free agent again. And unfortunately for him, it's in this current climate with the pandemic and with the lost revenue and not really knowing. But it's his last chance to really get paid, And listen, it doesn't make sense to, normal people when you're talking about he just made $24 million. How much more does he need? Well, this is the game of baseball. This is what happens, and this is his chance to get the contract he couldn't get a couple of years ago. Now, if you're the Yankees and you're trying to stick to, let's be honest, regardless of ticket sales, anything else, the number that they seem to really be concerned about is the luxury tax threshold, and they want to stay under that. Now, if you want to stay under that, you've got an ability right now to kind of wait out DJ LeMahieu and prove to you that you have to go this much further, because I'm sure the Yankees have gotten to a certain number with him, but until he proves to them that he's getting more somewhere else, they don't need to jump up there. And there's no game starting tomorrow. So as much as people want to talk about the urgency for this and that, listen, the market's not moving anywhere. You know, I mean, it's gone pretty slow so far. So I still think he ends up with the Yankees, but I look at LeMahieu and I don't fault him for not jumping and signing
don't
right
either.
now. I mean, like I said, this is his last chance. If he's getting a 4-year deal or a 5-year deal, he's not getting another huge deal after this at age 36 or 37. So to maximize what he wasn't able to do last time, this is his one chance to do it. So I think he's well within his rights to wait it out. And the Yankees are also, I mean, they're within their rights too. They want the player, but if you're trying to make sure there's a certain amount of money you have to spend, you don't give it all away to this guy. You know, they're just making sure that they can get him at whatever price is good. And they might have to jump up. Ronnie, Toronto might make this move, or somebody else might make this move to make the Yankees go the extra mile.
Correct.
But you're at a point right now where you don't have to go the extra mile yet. And that's why this is just taking so long.
Correct. You know, you look at this and you look, now I'm looking at the pictures. And, you know, and Timmy Lyric is a good friend of mine and the head trainer. And, you know, I talked to him once in a while. He went to the University of Tennessee and I talked to Timmy and, you know, the injuries that they have had and, you know, and for some reason, and I'm looking at this and, you know, I go out to the ballpark early. Okay. And when I do all these meet and greets, I'm up at the stadium. I do a lot of stuff with the Steinbrenners and Andrew Levy. I'm up with Joe Q and all those guys. And I'm looking at these sitting down and I watch the pitchers come out. Okay. And I don't know if you get there early enough to do this, but when we played, the real big thing with pitchers, and you can ask them now, is running.
Mm-hmm.
They got to get their legs in shape. They got to get
Sure.
their hips in shape. There's a major thing. They got to run from sideline to sideline to sideline.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we used to do.
Sure.
And these guys, I mean, they're dying.
Running poles.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they had to do that. Nowadays, what they do is they take their frisbee out. I don't know if you watch them. Have you seen them? They take their frisbee. No,
Not that.
Sweeny, no, let me tell you. No, I'm out there early. You know, if the game starts at 7, I'm out there at 3:30. They come out there in their shorts, and they come out there, you know, like, you know, their iron, you know, their muscles are pumped and stuff like that. And they got frisbees, and they throw in frisbee. And I was talking to, I think, one of the coaches, and gosh, I forgot who it was. But I said, what are they doing like that? He said, so they won't get bored. I said, what do you mean they won't get bored?
Yeah.
I said, these guys got to get themselves in shape. You don't see them running anymore.
Well, I'll tell you a couple of things, a couple of stories that jump to mind. Just because I don't see it doesn't mean they're not doing it. You know, I know they have the ability to run indoors and all that stuff and get some of their running in. I think they take that part of their conditioning seriously. I just, there are different ways to do it. If you remember, Mariano Rivera didn't like to run at all. So he would use batting practice and he would shag in the outfield during batting practice. And that's how he would get his running in. He would not do the poles like everybody else did. He would just run during BP. The one I remember, do you remember the Japanese pitcher Kei Egawa that the Yankees?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, he had, like, he was big on conditioning. He would run a lot. And when he struggled, he was searching for answers. And I have a feeling something was lost in the translation with the answers that he was giving us, because I don't think we just understood where he was coming from. But I remember him saying, like, specifically that he had to continue his running. He had to continue his running, and I remember walking away saying, nobody said you were a bad runner. Right now you're a bad pitcher, and that's what, something had to change. And he obviously never made the adjustment here, and never became a star pitcher here, but he's a guy who, took, when you mentioned pitchers running, he's one guy I think of because he was very serious about that. I don't think these pitchers lack for conditioning, but I think the kind you're talking about. But I mean, they're all very muscular. And
Oh, yeah.
when you're muscular, you pull muscles. That happens.
I was talking to David Cohn. David said, "Have you ever seen a fat guy pull a muscle?" I said, "No." He said, "Back in the days, you got Babe Ruth, and you got all these guys wearing there. They got baggies and stuff. They don't pull muscles when they swing it. They swing 100,000 times a year, and they don't pull obliques. I pulled every muscle in my world, not an oblique."
Here's the thing, though. I watched pitchers now, and like one of the things when you think about how long a game takes, and they talk about the time between pitches. Well, watch what these guys are doing, and you can kind of see it if you just focus on the pitcher. You've got a guy who goes out there and he tries to throw this pitch as hard as he possibly can. Right? He's throwing the ball 98 miles an hour. He gets the ball back. What's he do? Gathers himself, collects himself. He's getting himself together so that he can throw the next pitch as hard as he possibly can. And it takes time to recover in between these pitches. I mean, I watch guys that play in your day. They're not doing that. They're getting the ball and they're throwing it because they're not trying to throw every ball as hard as they possibly can. And I really believe that's a huge factor in when you consider all you have to do is look at time between pitches as one of these main elements of why games take longer. I really believe from watching and talking to people that this is a big issue, is they're just trying so hard to gather themselves to throw each pitch harder than the last one.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking at guys when we played, and you look at a guy like Tommy Glavine. You look at even Sparky Lau when he came in. At that time, he was the best left-handed relief pitcher, I think, in the game. He was, to me. He didn't throw real hard. But he had that great slider. But nowadays, you got everybody who's throwing 97, 98, 99. And when they get up to 100, all of them are looking at, see how, all the pitchers are looking back, see how hard they're throwing. And I'm saying to myself, I said, the name of the game still is throwing hard is great for the fans. And they see the big 100, 101. But the name of the game is still get people out. And the name of the game is to, when you throw hard and then you lay off that pitch like that. And, you get people off balance. But when you're a hitter now, and the last inning, you relief pitchers, that's all they're going to throw. They're going to throw that heat. They're going to throw that heat. Chapman, that's all he does majority of the time. He's going to throw the heat. Or
he's incorporated the slider now. Yeah.
But it's going to be hard. And he doesn't have that, where he's going to pull a nice changeup or like that, where, just that second, there's a fraction where, you're not going to hit the ball well. But you see these guys, and I was talking to Glavine, he lives down in Atlanta. I said, Tommy, he said, I wouldn't be pitching now if it was, if it was for my speed, Whitey Ford was the same way. The name of the game is to still get people out.
I want to ask you one thing. I'm always fascinated talking to pitchers who are working on changeups. And I used to have this, it was kind of a running joke actually with me and Phil Hughes, because every year in spring training, he would talk a lot about the changeup that he's working on, and he'd work on it. And then once he get to the games, he just didn't have enough confidence to make it, it became so hard to throw. It was a field pitch that became so hard. So I got fascinated. AJ Burnett, same thing, he would tinker and he'd get to a game and he just put it in his back pocket and he would hardly throw it. I'm just fascinated from the pitcher's perspective of how hard they work on that pitch and how reluctant they can be to throw it. What is it like from a hitter's perspective when you're talking about seeing a guy who has a good changeup, and whether he's going to throw it twice in a row or 3 times in a row, whatever it can be, knowing he has that changeup has to play games with you in your head?
Oh, absolutely. The first thing to be a good hitter, you got to hit the major league fastball. As a hitter, every at bat, you're going to at least see one good pitch to hit. One. You're going to say one good pitch. If you start falling behind, if you 0-1, then you're going to start hitting his pitch a little bit. You know, if he's throwing a fastball, maybe he might come off the fastball a little bit. If he's 0-2, even if he's been working on that changeup, if he can't throw it, if he throws it, the hitter is still thinking that he might be throwing me a changeup. So, you know, it's not, you know, to be a good hitter, you got to hit that fastball. And I waited for the fastball. And, you know, and there's so many guys that have that great breaking pitch. If they have a great breaking pitch, I'm not going to hit it. I mean, it's almost impossible to hit a 12-6. I mean, you're not going to hit that. And, you know, I mean, you just don't do that. Or like a Blomberg, okay? When Bert came up at 17 years old, I mean, he had that 12-6, and that was a hard 12-6, and it was like this. But, you know, but the first time I faced a Blomberg, stupid me, Ralph Howe, we had a meeting. He said he has a great curveball. Don't swing at it because you're not going to hit it. Wait for his fastball. I'm swinging at his breaking pitch. On the first pitch, I'm swinging. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. You can't be a stupid hitter when you get up to bat. You got to think up there. It's not just get the bat up there and just wait. You know, you got to think because you don't know if he's going to bring it in. You don't know if he's going to pull it away. He's, you know, I mean, it's a lot of variables in the game. So you got to really think about it.
It's one of the things that's made Garrett Cole fun to watch, and it was only a short sample this year. We got to watch him, but throwing hard and throwing it to where he wants, you know, the fastball command, which goes back to, you know, kind of this all or nothing aspect of the game. Well, guys are throwing really hard. So but as a hitter, you're trying to make them get it into this area, right? Well, if they're not, now you're at 3-1 and you're swinging from your heels. You try to hit the ball out of the fence. You're not trying to poke a single on a 3-1 pitch, right? And the other perspective, if you're down 1-2, so those breaking pitches that you're waving at because you're not getting the fastballs or the, you know, the get me over stuff. I just don't think we're ever going back to this idea of put the ball in play, move runners over, because everybody does everything too hard. Pitchers throw too hard, hitters swing too hard, and it just keeps going up and up and up.
Don't you think it's
I
going
don't
to
know
be
if there's any way around it until guys start throwing softer. Do you?
Well, you know, I mean, I look at it because it's only so many pitches or pitch. All of them has Tommy John surgeries.
Sure.
All of them have, you know. I mean, even before you even pitch, you know, these guys have Tommy John surgery.
But I would listen. You face Nolan Ryan a lot, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious because I'm thinking about what you thought of his games. Did he most of his games had a lot of walks and a lot of strikeouts, right?
Correct.
So and maybe home runs too. Yeah. I don't remember how many home runs he
pitcher. He was a 500 pitcher.
But my point is, like, a guy who throws that hard and doesn't always command it, which is nowadays, that's a lot of pitchers, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to do anything except walk, strikeout, or hit a home run. It's hard to hit it's hard to hit 4 singles in an inning off of Nolan Ryan. It's hard to hit 8 singles in a game off of Nolan Ryan.
See, Nolan had a great curveball too. People don't really curveball, but you never swing at his curveball. If you swing at his curveball, I mean, he's going to juice one up 100, but he's not a pitcher that's going to pitch 40, 50, 60 pitches. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that's going to pitch 140 pitches every single game. So, you know, the majority of his pitchers, it's going to be fastballs because he can't get the breaking pitch over with. But he was a 500 pitcher. But when I took him deep for home runs, when I started hitting him, I got the fastball. I knew to get the fastball a little bit lower because his fastball is going to rise. Because it was just part of it, because when you're throwing 100 and something miles an hour, it's the law of gravity. The ball's going to rise a little bit.
Did you see him well? You saw the ball well against him?
I saw him great. Yeah. It wasn't any, to be a good hitter. Okay. A hitter in the big leagues. Players in the big leagues are good hitters. They might not be great hitters. They can at least put the ball in.
Right.
Okay. But you got to see you got to see it. You got to understand it. I was never a guest hitter. I tell you who was a major guest hitter was Lou Piniella. Lou Piniella was a major guest hitter. And, you know, Lou was always guessed. I mean, he was a real good hitter, but he guessed at everything. I couldn't guess. I know if it's going to be 3-0, I'm not going to have an opportunity. I know that the manager, Ralph Houck or Billy Martin or Bob Lemon, you know, on a 3-0 count, I mean, if we're in the middle of the game, he's going to have me get on first base. And then once I get on first base, he's going to have somebody behind me try to get me from first to third and to score runs. But nowadays, everybody is looking for that big inning. Everybody is looking for that 3-run home run. They could be losing in the last inning. But now, you know, Sterling's going to say, now you got Judge, you got Stanton, and you got Sanchez up there.
Well,
You know,
and
all
listen,
of
you
them
can
gonna try to
tell
have
me
a-
better. You can
Huh?
tell me this better than I could. To me, it just looks like it's harder to do those little types of things when guys are throwing so hard. And you probably faced a bunch of guys who didn't throw as hard. So you could do, I mean, Nolan Ryan was an outlier at that time, right? I mean, how many guys threw as hard as Nolan Ryan did back then?
Well, you know, you had Palmer, you had Jim, you had Steve Carlton, you had Terry Forrester, you had Bart Johnson. I don't know if you remember Bart Johnson.
I don't remember him, no.
Yeah, with Chicago, about
Okay.
6'5" guy. Okay, he threw real hard, but they have more. But what they had more of, they have more of a pitch. Now, the pitchers have more of a plate to pitch to when we face them. They could throw in and they could call them a strike. They could throw away a little bit. They'll call them a strike.
That's the other thing I always come back to the idea of if you called a more rule book strike zone, you know,
Yes.
if you called letters to the knees,
Yeah.
I think you'd get a faster pace because you just hitters are going to have to swing more, swing
absolutely.
quicker because you get
Absolutely.
more strikes on them.
See, a lot of pitchers, when we faced them, the good pitchers, the umpires would always give the good pitchers pitches. There's maybe 2 or 3 or 4 pitchers now.
Yeah, that's not right either.
Oh, I understand that, but this is what they did.
Yeah.
Why do you think Glavine? Did you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Glavine
Play was like this wide.
Oh, it was that wide. I mean, and then he came. Oh yeah, no, it wasn't right. And we look at the umpires. I mean, hey, but that's what it was. Now it's from this down to your wherever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's but they got to pitch there. If they come off the plate a little bit, it's a ball. I've seen so many pitches that are so close where the umpires ball. You know, and I'm looking at this. Okay, if I was a hitter, I'm going to have to adjust because back then all umpires called different.
Oh yeah, and watch now. Look how people explode when there's a ball that's this far off the plate, and people go, "Oh, that's not a strike." Well, I mean, you know, you used to have pitches. You probably had pitches this far off the plate that were called strikes, right?
Absolutely. And then you face somebody like Gaylord Perry, who threw, you know, the spitter.
I think Reggie Jackson has a great Ken Kaiser story. Ken Kaiser was one of those umps, right?
Yeah, he was a wrestler.
Yeah. He had a story one time like Reggie argued with him or showed him up and Kaiser didn't like it, and then his next at bat, you know, he's calling a pitch this far off the plate, strike one, and this far off the plate, strike two, and Reggie just turns around and says, "Ken, I'm sorry," everything was back to normal.
Yeah, if you know they held grudges.
Yeah,
I remember my first AB that I had an umpire. It was in Detroit. A guy named Nestor Sherlock. Remember? Okay.
I know the name.
I'm a rookie. Got called up in '69. I'm 18, going on 19 years old. I get up to bat against a pitcher, Joe Colvin. Okay, Joe he threw real hard with Detroit. Real good team. Okay. He was throwing me pitches. They're so far in or far away. And I looked back. I said, "There's no way." He said, "If you want to play in this league," and Bill Freehand was catching. He said, "If you want to play in this league, you better listen to me. If not, you're going to hit 0. You'll never see the big leagues ever again." You just make sure you have respect for the umpire. And that's what he did.
Right.
And another guy we had who was a crazy guy. Remember Norm McSherry? What was his name? McSherry.
John McSherry.
John McSherry.
Yeah.
And when he used to call the people out and all that stuff, he could be safe by 10 feet, but he called them out because he wants to watch himself call each
Do
other.
the big.
Yeah,
Nobody does those calls anymore.
Oh, no, not anymore. But, but the fans love that. And, and when I'm playing first base and he's behind me and he's doing all that stuff with his legs and this, people didn't realize he was a great football player at Syracuse. Did you know that?
Who's that?
McSherry.
Oh, no, I did not know that.
He was a very good football player at Syracuse. Yeah. And he was like, hey, you can't make these guys look bad. You can't make them, we get thrown out of a game, it's $25. And back then, that was like 3 days of meal money.
Of course.
We had to go eat White Castle. We couldn't go. We couldn't have room service. If we have room service, only type, hey, real quick. The only guy that we went on trips and we have room service, we found out where Reggie's room was.
There you go.
Everybody had room service and we knew he was making the big bucks and we ordered everything to his room. He had no idea when we had to check out, and the traveling secretary would always say, pay your incidentals.
That's great.
$5. He had like $500 or $700 he had to pay. He said, I didn't, but we did.
Ron,
But that was the time. Hey, we had crazy guys with our team. We did all that stuff. But, hey, baseball.
Ron, John McSherry was a National League. Somebody said that you were actually referring to Ron Luciano, who played
Ron
football for
Luciano.
Syracuse.
Okay.
He was in the American League. He's muted, Sweeny, so give him a second to come back.
Ron Luciano. That was he was a guy. You remember him?
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff. And he passed away, I think,
Quite a
on
character.
the baseball field, didn't he?
No, that's John McSherry.
John McSherry died.
John McSherry did in I think on opening day in '96. Yeah.
He just collapsed. He just collapsed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But no, it was fun. And but let me ask you something. Do you think there's going to be any major traded? Anybody to get traded?
Yeah, listen, I think that's the one thing, especially if you're talking about the Yankees. One thing Brian Cashman loves to do is he loves to look for starting pitching on the trade market. And, every couple of years he manages to pull one of these things off. And, sometimes it's hard for these guys to stick. It's always kind of hit and miss with some of these guys. But I think the last one he did like this was James Paxton. That was a couple of years ago. And I feel like he's always looking for one of those opportunities to get a guy who might have probably another year or two, not more than one, but maybe 2 to 3 years of team control still. And is a little bit more established than maybe some of the younger guys that they have, like Garcia and Schmidt and King and things like that. If I had to make any prediction on this winter, I would tell you that I think he is going to trade for pitching. I just think it's happening.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out pretty soon. Hopefully baseball will come back and it'll be fun. You could get out of your house. You
2 more months. There's a schedule. We'll see if everybody's still in line and that schedule comes to fruition. But
I hope so.
2 months
Everybody
away.
takes this vaccine, and that's at least that's a good. Last 11 months it's been miserable, and I know what you're going through, and you're going nuts, and everybody's going nuts, and I feel so bad for people, and I feel so bad. And this is why I have done this Zoom, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
This is why I've done this, because there's 42 million people out of work, and people are struggling, and to talk to people and to relate to people and talk baseball, and people meet yourself because you're such a big hero in New York. People love you. And when I first met you down at fantasy camp, you're the best of the best, and, and whatever. And we became friends, and, and you're wonderful. And I remember you before you got married. Now you got 2 kids, and, it's wonderful to see people, the success, and people that love who you are and what you do and stuff. And it's been fun. And I know that you're tired, and you wake up and you're going to start pumping some iron.
That's it. I'm getting up there again. Listen,
You look good,
I
big guy.
love talking to you, Ronnie. Listen, I always love when my baseball card collections come to life. So when I get to meet guys like you and I was saying one of the fortunate things that I get to do is that there are players who were great players, household names, some cases Hall of Famers. I grew up a baseball fan. Well, I'm on a first name basis with guys like that. And that part is really cool. And it's kind of fun. You mentioned I've got right on. Nope, sorry, it's over this wall, over this shoulder here. Those are my two kids at Yankee Stadium. So it's kind of fun that I get to share that with them and just be able to see that, I did something cool once. I was not a baseball player, and there are lots of people more famous than me, but I get to interact with them and
But you lived
have
the fantasy.
Conversations with them, and that's kind
You
of
lived your dream because this is what you wanted to do, and you became very successful at it. I had an injury career, but at least I got to put on the Yankee pinstripes. At least I had fun. At least I talked to people like yourself and became friends. And and to meet people like yourself, Sweeny, I love you to death, and you're the best. And anytime you ever need me to do anything, I'm here for you. And I can't wait till I meet your kids and your wife and you at the stadium. And then I owe you one. I owe you a big steak dinner, and we're gonna go to the Hunt and Fish Club. I don't know if you.
Oh yeah, sure,
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know that one.
Hunt, and we got to have Nelson. We had him a couple of times on the Zoom. We'll have you and your family, and we'll have a wonderful time.
Bring your credit card, baby. I'm gonna eat up.
Oh, you don't have to worry about that. We're gonna make sure he pays for it.
Excellent.
We're gonna make. Hey, there's one thing I do. I know how to get these people to pay for it. So he'll take great good care of you and your family, and we could get out and you could go have fun and to say this is over with. It's over. 2020s. It's gone, and we can live a real life, and I hope we have a great year this year, big guy, and hopefully it's going to be real easy for you this year.
Always love talking to you, Ronnie, and look forward to the day I get to see you soon.
Thanks, Sweeny. Love you. Tell your family I said hello. Looking forward to seeing you. I love you, big guy.
Love you, Ronnie.
Thanks,
see ya.
Thanks, big guy. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, sweet.
Thank you.
Sweeny, thanks so much for coming on with us.
Thank you.
We're actually still live. I don't know why Ron disconnected, but can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's why I put up Mike Francesa's picture before. I watched that live when you did that, when you were on his show. Well, you were the Yankee reporter on his show, and you were talking about the Yankees. And I watched it then, and I said, he fell asleep. I mean, I don't know why he denied it. I thought it was classic. Back then, he was simulcast on the S Network, I believe. Mm-hmm. What did you think?
I've never been able to have as much fun with it as other people want me to have fun with it, because frankly, it's not a big highlight for me. If like my job is to talk and say things that are informative and entertaining, and while I was talking, somebody fell asleep. Not something you put on your highlight reel. I do tend to take it in a lot of direction, in the same direction now that Mike has taken it over the last several years. And listen, for good reason. Mike would go on and say how people would keep bringing up this one segment of a very long and successful career. I like to, people like to talk to me about this thing too. And that's the one thing they always remind me of. And it's going to be the first line of my obituary probably, right? But I like to think I've had a pretty nice, long and successful career too. Why do we have to keep bringing that up all the time as the one highlight of my career? I've done a couple of pretty cool things too.
Oh yeah.
I just don't have maybe at some point I will. I don't have as much fun with it because it's simply not a highlight for me. It's something that just happened, and I don't, if it happened to somebody else, why do I just have a lot of people who like to talk to me about it. I understand why, but I hope you understand that it's not a personal highlight for me.
No, yeah.
It's understandable. You know, one question I do want to ask you, being in, like you said, you've gotten to live your fantasy. You know, you know these people by first name. They call you by first name, which is actually kind of cool, well, extremely cool. What is your favorite moment ever?
Covering the game? Well, I would like to think I like that because they ended in two uniquely different ways. Covering Yankees Red Sox in 2003 and 2004, when it was like peak rivalry, it was really, really fun to look back on. You know, we talk in sports about rivalries like Duke and North Carolina. They play twice a year. Well, the Yankees and Red Sox played 52 games against each other in those two seasons, 19 regular season and 7-game playoffs each year. And both years, it went to a decisive seventh game to see who goes to the World Series. And they both ended in such dramatic fashion. And I had a front row press box seat for both of them. And to just see the intensity of all those games and ending the way they did each time, those two are really cool. But also, as you go past that, I've covered a bulk of the careers of Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, and Mike Messina, all in the Hall of Fame, and getting a chance to witness why they're in the Hall of Fame, and you get to talk to them about it after all those games and the processes, and have memories of watching those things up close. Those are really cool things for me.
Oh, that's
Do you have
awesome.
opinions on this year's Hall of Fame ballot?
Say that again.
Do you have any opinion on this year's Hall of Fame ballot?
I haven't studied. I don't have a vote, so I mean,
Right.
I've kind of glanced at it, but I haven't given it a lot of serious thought yet. Probably when that starts to kick up after Christmas sometime, I'm trying to worry about where DJ LeMahieu is going to sign, and then maybe I'll figure out what happens with all of it. I will tell you, though, that I think Scott Rowland and Andrew Jones deserve to be in. I think defense is undervalued. I think we talk about defense all the time in relation to players and what we think of it during the course of a game, yet you've got guys who were exceptional defenders and really, really, really good hitters too. I think it pushes them over the top, but I don't think we add that into consideration enough when we're talking about the voting.
We had a follower, right, saying that he's scared that Cohen from the Mets, the new ownership, might go really deeply after LeMahieu.
I don't see it at this point. I think they're focused on the other guys who are more positions of need for them. I don't see them signing multiple guys they're obviously not going to sign Real Muto because they signed McCann, right?
Right.
You have Springer and Bauer, and you have LeMahieu out there, but you got to remember that the Mets are also trying to build a product. They're not trying to just put a team together for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to build a successful organization. You got to give up a draft pick for every single one of those guys because there's compensation attached to them with the qualifying offer. Springer, Real Muto, Bauer, LeMahieu. You're not going to sign. You only have 5 picks next year. You're not going to sign 3 of them and lose them all. So I think that's a consideration. They will get one of those guys, and if I had to guess, I would say Springer. I don't think they're going to sign multiple guys because I don't think they're prepared to give up the draft pick compensation for it. Springer
would be a good fit with them.
Yeah,
center fielder. Well, Springer would help any team. That's
any team.
Sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Sweeny, thank you very much for joining us.
You bet, guys.
Really appreciate this. We'll see you around, man.
See you at the ballpark.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Have a good night.
Have a good one.
All right, big guy. I already have a voicemail message from Ron. If anybody's still out there listening, we are taking next week off for Christmas. We'll be back on January 5th, and we're switching gears. We're going to have Mets talk with Ed Coleman, Sweeney's partner on the Fan, or counterpart, depending how you look at it. Joe, you want to wish everybody whatever?
Well, I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Hopefully 2021 will be a whole lot better, but we're coming bigger and stronger for next year. So be ready.
And we love you all, big guy.
We love you.